Good morning, Ramsey. How are you?
I'm all good. How you doing, Coach?
Good, good. I want to touch base with you about some diversity and inclusion, and kind of speak with you about being a black athlete in the sport of lacrosse, and on top of that, being a black athlete in the sport of lacrosse and being from Mississippi. So it's kind of a little bit of everything. So my first question is, how did you get started in lacrosse in an area that's not typically known for lacrosse?
Where I'm from, people probably don't even know what the word lacrosse means besides a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. So that's just like regarding the general population, I'd say. But if you get more down into like my county or surrounding cities, they'll they'll have a little small taste of it, or they know a little bit of it, somewhat of what it is. They'd say something like, "Oh, is that where y'all throw with that net?" or something like that. You know what I'm saying? They'd say
Yeah,
some real funny stuff like that. But truthfully, people don't really get into it unless you really just see it in your face. And luckily for me, lacrosse was one of those sports that my school um, didn't necessarily endorse, but uh, they kept it around. So it wasn't a school sanctioned sport at all. Not throughout my time playing. It was more like a club team the entire time. So we never played any schools out of Mississippi. To my recollection, we probably only played one other team from Mississippi throughout my whole from seventh grade till I graduated. And so we played in Louisiana leagues. We played in Alabama leagues. Our schedules always fluctuated year in and year out. We didn't know who was going to be playing. Um, but actually, how I met lacrosse was me and my mom were going to the mall, I think, one summer. No, it wasn't even during the summer. It was during the actual season. And I looked over at the field because me growing up, I'm always loving football, and the stadium's right in the middle of the city. You got to pass the stadium to get anywhere, and I always look at the stadium every time I pass it. So by chance, I seen some team on there doing some craziness, throwing the ball around with some sticks and stuff I ain't never seen. So I was like, "Mom, on the way back, we got to stop if they still there." And luckily, they were still there. Caught the whole second half, and got to meet the coach. And by the end of the day, I left with my own stick. So that just shows you that they're down to grow the sport, most definitely. Whoever is involved is definitely involved to grow the sport in one way or another.
I think that's an interesting story because I know for us as college coaches that love bringing in athletes and teaching the sport, we always joke like when Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana start to get good at lacrosse, some people,
Y'all
some
joke.
people are in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So I guess we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty now that we know how you got started. How was playing lacrosse in high school in Mississippi as a black athlete versus your experience coming to Hartsville and playing at the college level? And I know you played some club as well. So how has that, I guess, the experience been for you, challenging, positively or negatively?
I'd say I'm gonna just start off with a diversity aspect of it. Being that with football, you have obviously more diversity than most sports besides basketball, I'd assume. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I wasn't really being targeted too often. I have been racially targeted in football, but I'm from Mississippi. Sad to say, that's kind of what comes with the territory. You know what I'm saying? So with that being into account, you get on the lacrosse end and you realize you're completely the minority. You know what I mean? So once that happens, you got to be on guard. Like, I don't even think my mom told me or she had to tell me to be on guard for whenever I started playing lacrosse. Because even when I was playing baseball in middle school or trying to play baseball in middle school, mind you, never played baseball before, tried out. Well, honestly, I didn't even try out. That's probably what pissed some people off. Is because I didn't even try out. I was like, I'm going to run track, coach. I'm going to run track. That's it. And he said, you could just run bases. And I was 15. I said, all right, bet. So um, very first practice I show up, kid threatens me, says he's gonna throw fastball straight to my dome, whatever. I show up the next day of practice looking for this kid because that's the type of person I am. Nothing happened, but guess what? No baseball was ever played. Started running track. You know what I'm saying? So I was expecting that coming into lacrosse, and at first it was never like that because I was always with my friends. And then as I got older and we got more competitive, got into high school, people get a little cocky. People start feeling themselves a little more, and they're willing to say more irrational things. So as soon as I got to high school, I've had probably like 4 or 5 instances to where somebody's said something derogatory or has acted in a shady way in some type of uh, disgusting manner. You know what I'm saying? So honestly, moving out of Mississippi though, and getting to a better level of lacrosse, like I've played good lacrosse, I feel like, but I've never played good top tier lacrosse until I got out of Mississippi. And so getting out of Mississippi actually it opened my eyes a little bit more to how open people could be. It's a nasty world that we live in, but I was willing to embrace whatever it had to offer me leaving Mississippi. And Coker basically showed me, wow, I'm not the only African American on the team. It showed me that people are willing to accept you however you are.
Last question, because you answered the third one. What do you feel is your responsibility or impact for growth of lacrosse in the Black community, or do you feel a responsibility at all?
Personally, I've always taken lacrosse, and it might be kind of messed up for me to say this, but I've always used lacrosse in a selfish mindset. You know what I'm saying? I've always used lacrosse as an avenue for me to get to school, me to get an education, me to get a degree. You know what I'm saying? Like that was always my vision, but I also found love for the game on that journey. You know what I mean? So like I'm a competitor, so I'm gonna always be trying to outdo who's ever out there, outdo myself. And that just came along with me loving to compete. This is all that lacrosse is straight competition. So with with regards to me growing the sport, I've never felt an obligation, truthfully, to grow the sport up until recently. Being that people are so sectioned off, I really don't like the word like segregated. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I guess you have to use it because people are so caught off in their own bubbles nowadays that they're not so much as willing to branch off into new things because of this. You know what I mean? So if they're not willing to branch off, then what am I fighting a uphill battle for? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like back home, it's already doing its own work for itself. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the population back home is me. So like if it's already growing, then let it do what it does. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever I left school, there was only one other black kid at the high school that was playing at the time. And then I look back last year, there was a whole nother team that I didn't even know about. And they had like 6. You know what I'm saying? So it's doing its own justice, truthfully, because I feel like people are becoming more aware of social injustices and becoming more aware of uh, respective cultures. You know what I'm saying? So with everybody becoming more aware, everybody's getting more like this, and they're picking up on new things. Maybe he didn't listen to country music, now he do. Maybe he didn't like rap, now he does. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So everybody's feeding into each other's own hobbies and uh ordeals, whatever they might be. Truthfully, that's what it's like back home. Even the people that would be coming up to you on the corner store, you know what I'm saying? They be asking about lacrosse and this and that nowadays. But whenever I was in school, they weren't even wondering about it, having a thought for real. That's what it seemed like.
I think it's the point you bring up. It's not necessarily selfish, but I think you have a message. And the first thing you said was that you saw lacrosse as an opportunity to go to school, get scholarships, get an education. I think when I think about the growth of lacrosse in an area like yours, especially, that's kind of what I think. Like comes to my mind is that it doesn't have to be basketball, football, right? And it's maybe it's not like, you know, a lot of guys from your area. I know you got a lot of friends that play high level Power Five Division One football, but aren't necessarily going to make it to the pros. So they're going to have a great experience.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, and I'm not going to speak for your friends, but I feel like you're going to be one of the cooler scientists I've ever known, right? And so I think that that is your message. I think that's your opportunity. Is like selfishly, you can send that same message to a young kid who's a freshman or sophomore in high school, like, hey, like lacrosse is a great opportunity for you to display your athleticism, get an opportunity to get a scholarship and play at the next level and get a degree. And like, you know what I mean? It might not lead you to the professional ranks, but you'll come out of it with a degree and kind of make the most of it. So I don't think that's selfish at all. I think that's kind of setting a path and opening a new door for athletes in your area that, hey, like it doesn't have to be basketball. It doesn't have to be football. And so I know there's like a little bit of a financial barrier there too, because lacrosse can be
Mhm.
expensive to play. But like you said, you showed up to a practice and left with a stick. That's the start. You know, if you can give one kid a stick or a helmet at some point, that might just open up a whole new door. You know, so I don't think that's a selfish approach at all.
The thing about the monetized part of lacrosse in the South, for me, if you're coming up and you don't really have the money to just throw out, get a new stick, get a new head, get a new arm pad, glove, da 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 da. If you don't have that type of money, if you come into connections with people, that's the type of community that lacrosse is. If you come into connections with people, simple as that, they will bless you with scholarships, with new gear, with whatever you need, with travel, lodging, for whatever tournaments you need. Like they will be there for you, and that's the thing. Like that's how I got so close. Like even all my homies that I grew up with playing lacrosse with are still my best friends. You know what I'm saying? When I go home. And then I have new best friends as well, but they're still like I still call them up and hang out with them first. You know what I mean? So if I was to be trying to grow the sport, I wouldn't really know how to go about it right now. But up until recently, with all these tragedies, I've been thinking about it a little more with diversity. You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking about diversity as a whole more. But if you have a mindset like mine to where you're not down for the typical, you're not down to just settle, you're gonna try to actually make something, you're gonna use resources, you're gonna be resourceful, you know what I mean? Then you'll definitely be able to successful lacrosse player coming from Mississippi and being, you know, a minority. And truthfully, if you're about your work, if you're about your grind, if you're about your athleticism and all your craft, then you're gonna get somewhere regardless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people that travel that would literally take me and fly me with them to Philadelphia to go play lacrosse tournaments to go get seen. And my mom's still at home working. You know what I'm saying? So there are opportunities out there that people just need to get woke to. That's all it is. As soon as you open your eyes and don't, let yourself settle for things, or if you just take advantage of things, have the guts to take advantage of something, do something different, then you're definitely going to be successful.
And I think I saw you in two different tournaments during the recruiting process. One in North Carolina, and I'm not mistaken, the other was in Northern Virginia. So it's kind of like getting you up. I think that was with Shred Thread. Is that correct?
Shred thread,
You was Shred Thread. You were Team Florida. You were Team Florida. That's where it was. So
Florida, and lightning. Those are the two.
got it. Well, Ethan, that's all I got, man. Because I forgot to do this on the front end. Introduce yourself, your year, and your major.
Okay. My name is Ethan Kincaid Ramsey. I'm from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Um, I'm a junior here at Copeland University, and my major is biology with a concentration in ecology.